one of the things that strikes me there is that shift in mindset for transition veterans into industry is largely going to be around thinking in lean, to come from the manufacturing process, thinking
Right.
how we do things lean, how we do it. You referenced just in time earlier as well. How we adopt these very clear processes that allow an organization to do a job with 15 technicians and engineers rather than 60. And that kind of and I suppose this is a question for both sides. For any veterans that are looking to transition, which is where your book hits some real strong talking points, is it advisable for them to take a step aside before, and it's not always possible, of course, but take a step aside and educate themselves on the world of business and private enterprise? And I suppose the second side of it is, is that and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, where we've got no engineers, and so it's not just a case of we don't have the engineers, we're constantly facing a battle from, it's a downward spiral where companies are poaching other companies, and it's very, very dangerous for the entire industry, in my mind. So we need to make our engineers sticky, we need to be really attractive. Is something like that approach of saying, look, you guys have got the technical skills, we want you to understand business and private enterprise first, and almost having like a mini MBA as they're coming into business, or is that overkill for the engineer route? Is that something that actually that second part of that challenge I identified at the top, where do the leaders come from? Is that something that's quite forward looking? Just some thoughts around that, because I'm just looking at, right, how do we plane the edges of that square so it becomes a circle, so we've got that need to fit? How do we bridge this gap between?
That's a great question, Kris, because and I do have a pretty strident opinion on the answer here.
Great.
When it comes to the veteran themselves, what I tell them is they've already lost a lot of years in the workforce while they were in the military. And their peers, when they transition into industry, are likely to be substantially younger than they are. And so I advise them not to spend any more time delaying their entry into the civilian workforce by going to school. There's two reasons. The first reason, and I'll address lean specifically. While the general principles of lean can be learned generically, most companies have their own form of lean that they implement. And so you could go to school and learn a very academic, high level, and yet useless form of lean, because when you get to the company, you learn that no, none of that pertains to the way they do business in their environment. They've got an ERP system that implements lean in a very specific and precise way. And you find out all that time you've spent learning this academic, generic lean process is wasted, because what you really needed to know is the very precise, specific way your current employer implements it. So that's kind of point number one. As far as business acumen and business experience in general goes, there's a very limited set, unless you're going to be in finance or mergers and acquisitions or something like that, and nobody's hired out of the military to do those kinds of things. There's a very specific set of business principles, very limited set of business principles you'll need to understand in order to succeed in industry, and you can absolutely learn those things on the job. So again, and by the way, you don't really need to know those things until you get into management positions.
Yeah.
And there will be time while you're employed to learn those things so that you can train for management positions. And so again, both of those factors argue for transitioning directly from the military into your civilian job as quickly as possible, and then figuring out what you need to learn while you're being employed.